Hi, everyone. So thanks for joining us today. My name is Vivian and I'm an Admissions and Recruitment Manager at the UBC Sauder School of Business. And today we're going to tell you a little bit more about our full-time MBA program. I have Keith here with me in the chat box. He's my colleague, and he's going to try to answer some of your questions if you have them in the chat as the webinar goes through. Just as a kind of icebreaker, we have some attendees with us probably from all over the world. So if you want to just test out your chat box workability, feel free to type in the country you're from or city you're from. And as well as just like, that's an indication to us that you can actually hear me right now. So it'd be great if we can make this interactive. I will also be taking some questions at the end. So feel free to type in questions as you have them. Keith will try to answer them as we go through. And I will also be answering questions towards the end. So great, so why don't we get started? So that's a photo of me, the person you're talking to. I actually dislike that photo a lot, but apparently it's the one that I have as a headshot. So this is the person you're talking to. Some of you have already met, probably in MBA tours abroad, as well as through meetings in Vancouver. So those of you that I've met before, thank you for joining us here. So let's talk a little bit about the city that our MBA program takes place in. So as you know, our MBA program, as a brief kind of summary, is a 16-month program that starts in August of every year in the beautiful city of Vancouver. For those of you that are unaware, Vancouver is located on the west coast of North America. We're just about 2 hours north of Seattle, and it's always been voted as one of the most livable cities in the world and has Canada's fastest growing metropolitan economy. It's home to a number of different companies, some that are large multinationals and some like Lululemon that were born in the city. But we do benefit from being in our location in Vancouver, in that for some of you thinking of studying in Canada, you'll know that the currency in Canada is about 25 to 30% weaker than the US dollar. So studying in Canada means that your money does go further. And also, because of that, companies both large and small have seen Vancouver as a great place to grow. Reason being, as soon as you cross the Canada-US border, your overhead drops by 25 to 30%. So as an example, large companies like Amazon have seen this as an advantage and are opening 2 new offices in the next 5 years in Vancouver. So that's thousands of new jobs in this kind of hub city on the west coast of North America. In addition to having very close linkages to Silicon Valley and being a hub for startups, Vancouver is also an Asia-Pacific gateway in North America. So we do also have a very strong reputation here at UBC with the emerging Asia-Pacific region. And we also run an IMBA program in partnership with Shanghai Jiao Tong University. Of course, one of the top universities, not only in China, but also in the world. So that's a quick introduction to Vancouver. For those of you that are unfamiliar with Canada, I should probably mention that Vancouver has the privilege of being the warmest city in Canada. So just to let you know, for those of you who are not familiar with Vancouver, in the summer, we have 4 seasons. Summertime is around 28 to 30 degrees. We have spring and fall as well, and those are typically around 10 to 20 degrees depending on proximity to the summertime. And our worst season would be the winter, typically about 5 to 10 degrees, but typically we do not get snow, so you do not have to unbury your car or anything like that. So if you are from a warmer region of the world, that is something to consider in terms of studying in Canada, but having the advantage of not having to deal with a lot of snow or very cold weather. So a little bit about our program reputation. The UBC program is has a very strong global reputation. Just to let you know, the University of British Columbia is always among the top 40 universities of the world. Our MBA program is ranked within the top 45 global elite programs. We're ranked #1 in Canada for business and economics, and we have 40,000 alumni in 80 countries around the world. So why a UBC MBA? So I'm going to talk about a few things as this presentation goes on. We do have a very experiential, a program that's really rooted in experiential learning, and I'm going to talk about some of these elements such as global immersion and the personalized career development as we go through this presentation. But we know that you're considering an MBA because you have certain career goals that you'd like to achieve. So this program is very career oriented. We are a program that is trying to develop the skills in you that will help you place in a job that you want to go into once you graduate from the MBA. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about what we do in terms of your career development during this presentation as well. So first, let's talk about what the full-time MBA journey looks like. So like I mentioned, the program starts in August of every year. And here we're looking at the first few months of the program, where you can see that we start the program off with foundational courses in general management. And you can see as you're doing the foundational courses, you're going to be doing integrated case days. So it is a case-based learning method as you're going through the program. You'll end the foundational period with a local consulting project. So trying to build your resume as you go through the program with strategic projects with real companies. That will take you to the Christmas break, and you can see after the Christmas break, you'll be on to the track courses and electives. I'm going to mention the track courses, go into a bit more detail about the different track courses later on, but just to let you know, there are 4 different career tracks in this program, one in finance, one in products and service management, another one in innovation entrepreneurship, and a 4th one in technology and analytics. And of course, there is, of course, the 5th option to customize your track as well. So if those 4 specific tracks do not appeal to you, there's an option to customize as well. Now you'll see here there's a little section that says Trip Abroad GIE. GIE stands for Global Immersion Experience. So that is an international consulting project that all of our students undertake in the MBA program. So the reason being is that not only do we want to build your resume as you go through the MBA program with a local consulting project, but we also want to build your international experience with a global consulting project. So the GIE actually starts shortly after the Christmas break, so when you come back in January. So you're going to be consulting for a company, an international company, for about 6 weeks or so before you go abroad and actually meet the company, do site visits, do company pitches, and learn more about how business actually rolls out in a completely different country. You can see the GIE period abuts with a break, the spring break. So a lot of students will take another week off to vacation together in the country where they did their GIE experience. So after the GIE experience in the spring break, you'll be back in Vancouver doing your track courses and electives, and then you'll be on to the summer experience period. So our 16-month MBA program does feature a 4-month paid internship period. So the majority of our students will choose to do the paid internship, but some students will actually choose to launch an entrepreneurial project. And we do have seed funding available for students that are choosing to launch a venture over the summer rather than do a paid internship. Our paid internship generally pays between $3,000 and $6,000 a month. So that's a nice return on investment, typically between $12,000 to $24,000 for students that are going through the program. Once you finish the summer experiential learning period, we'll be on to the elective courses to finish off your program. And it's at this point that you can also choose to do an optional international exchange. You'll also note that there are optional Global Network Week courses in the October as well. Now you can see for the length of the program at the bottom there, you'll see career and professional development plays a very essential part of your journey with the UBC MBA program. So you will have a guided approach to your career development as you go through your career journey at UBC. So that will include access to a one-on-one career coach, professional career coach, mentorship programs, exclusive job listings, different types of career training programs. So everything that you need in order to move your career ahead to the next level. So like I mentioned in that overview, period 1 and 2 will be focused on foundational modules and then thematic modules. So you can see the different courses listed there. And then here are the different career tracks as a recap. Technology and analytics is new for this year, and it will focus on topic areas like data visualization, AI commercialization, consumer analytics, fintech. And then we have finance, products and service management, and innovation entrepreneurship. And again, there is the 5th option, of course, to create a custom career track according to your interests. So experiential learning components of the program. They include business strategy integration at the beginning part of the program, the internship or entrepreneurial project, and the capstone project at the end of the program. So the program is very experiential, and you can see by these key strategic experiential learning capstones that we have in the program that there are different points, both in terms of doing major case studies in the business strategy integration to actually working with actual companies in your internship as an example. So like I mentioned, the summer experience is either an internship or an entrepreneurial project. So as a recap, it is an opportunity if you choose to do the internship to get a return on investment of $3,000 to $6,000 per month over the course of 4 months, or you can do the entrepreneurial project, which I mentioned before. You will have access to potential seed funding to help you launch your venture. Global experiences form a key cornerstone of this program. So global immersion I've already mentioned, but we also have 2 other opportunities in terms of international exchange and the Global Network of Advanced Management. So in terms of global immersion, last year our students got to choose between 4 different countries. So as an example, they were Germany, Chile, Hong Kong, and Israel. So if you're considering, it's a mandatory part of the program, but it's a great opportunity for you to expand your resume to a country potentially that you've never had an experience in. So if you are potentially interested in the European markets, you might want to do your global experience in Germany. Or if you're interested in the natural resource sector, you might choose to do your global immersion experience in Chile. Or you're interested in the fintech sector, you might choose Hong Kong. So you will know what the countries are and what the companies and projects are prior to kind of ranking your top choices from 1 to 4 as an example. And we do try to match you up with your top choice in terms of your global immersion experience. In terms of the Global Network of Advanced Management, UBC Sauder is the only Canadian member of the GNAM network. Now, this is a network spearheaded by the Yale School of Management that includes 30 leading business schools. And as you can see, they include some of the top business schools in the world. You can see Berkeley's there, LSE, you can see Yale, of course, IE University. So it is an opportunity for you to do a week-long global network week at one of these top institutions all around the world. Expand your network in that way, but also learn on a thematic topic area. So global network weeks, they can happen in terms of a physical week at one of these 30 schools, or they can also happen in small online courses. So it is an optional component of your MBA program that does come back as elective credits towards your MBA, and you do have the option of either going abroad or you can actually do the courses virtually. Some examples of global network weeks and themes and institutions are listed here. So you can see that they often have a regional or institutional bent. You can see the Berkeley School did a global network week on Bay Area innovation and entrepreneurship. You can see Yale School of Management did behavioral science of management. And here at UBC Sauder, we did a global network week on sustainable development goals, cities, and inclusive prosperity. It's supposed to be prosperity, not property. In terms of career goal, in terms of the class profile, you can see here that we roughly have a class of about 100 students that join us every year in the MBA program. They have a different range of ages. I do get asked the question of what the average age is. It typically falls between 27 to 28, but in this program, we're not looking for a specific age. So if you're not 27 or 28, don't panic. You can see that we have an age range there. We're basically looking for people that are ready for this program to take themselves to the next level in their career. So if you're 24, you might have different career goals than a 41-year-old. The main objective is getting a student in this class that will benefit from doing this program wherever they are in their career development. You can see we are quite international. We had 51% international students in last year's cohort, and they do come from a variety of different undergraduate degree majors, as well as different types of work experience by industry. International exchange, so study abroad. So this is different from our GNAM network weeks that we, partnership that we have with Yale School of Management. So this is our traditional study abroad program where you can go at the end of your program for up to 3 months at 34 exchange partners all across the world. All continents are covered except for Antarctica. So basically if there's somewhere that you want to go, most likely we have a partner there. Personalized career coaching forms a really integral part of your experience here at UBC. So the career coaches will sit down with you one-to-one and really discuss what your specific career goals are, what kind of key competencies you want to build, what companies you might want to get connected to, and create and really deliver a very personalized kind of experience for you in terms of what you want to get out of the program. And that could include, connecting you to our alumni at various companies that you might be interested in knowing more about for, coffee chats, whether they're in person here in Vancouver or virtually if you're interested in the international market. But we do try to deliver a very personalized career development experience here at UBC. So one thing that's quite unique about our Career Center is we offer a very comprehensive EQ development program. Why does EQ matter? Some of you might have read about this already, but all large companies right now, major business leaders are saying the skills that are going to be the most important in basically determining success in the future in this ever-changing world that's changing quicker by the day are these emotional intelligence skills. So EQ matters because it helps you build better relationships, it helps you manage, difficult emotional situations, and it's proven to increase creativity and emotion and innovation, and it is a key to leading others effectively in your future leadership roles. So UBC has a partnership with an EQ consulting firm called Roche Martin, and we deliver a very personalized and comprehensive kind of emotional intelligence development system for all of our students in the MBA program. So that would include kind of, some emotional intelligence testing at the beginning to develop your EQ profile, and then kind of the coaching that comes with it to help develop areas where, you might want to develop key competencies in areas where you might score lower on, and build a better and stronger and more complete EQ profile by the end of the program. So in terms of career outcomes from this MBA program, you can see kind of some samplings of what people have done, both in terms of career changers. So these are people that are kind of moving different roles as well as oftentimes industries. And then you can see what our career enhancers have done. So these are people that might have moved to different types of roles, but potentially in the same industry. 81% of our grads were employed within 90 days of graduation, and you can see our average grad day salary here. And you can see that there is a range of salaries, anywhere from $33,000 to over $200,000 in terms of the range of salaries that our grads get. This will be determined a lot by the type of industry that you choose to get into. So here are some alumni profiles that we have here, just to give you an idea of what some of our students have done. So you can see here, Matthew was Senior Manager of Strategy and Transformation at RBC, post MBA. It was a class of 2015 graduate. You can see here, Kimberly Zatlin is now working as a director at Salesforce. She was a graduate of the 2012 class. And Varun is now a site leader at Amazon, class of 2015. Admissions requirements, we are looking here as a snapshot of what we're looking for in terms of your admissions requirements. So academic achievement, we're looking for a GPA of approximately B+ or 76%. GMAT or GRE is a requirement for application to this program. So in terms of a competitive score, we're looking for a GMAT of 650. Or a GRE of 320. Now we do have the minimum averages there as well, GMAT 550, GRE 300. So obviously don't aim for the minimum, but if you do score a minimum score on these tests, I always suggest that students do keep the score. For example, in the GMAT, you can self-cancel a score. If you do happen to score a 550, it's always worth it to keep that score and try to score higher for later, so at least you have a valid score to apply with. Now, one important note about the GMAT, we don't look at the integrated reasoning section of that test. Now, if you're applying to different schools, they might look at the IR section, but for the purposes of the UBC application, we are not looking at the IR section, just the verbal and the quantitative section. For the MBA, we are looking at a minimum of 2 years of full-time work experience post-graduation. And kind of like on average, we do have about 3 to 5 years of work experience from our applicants. We have a minimum of 2 professional references that we need. At least one needs to be from someone that you reported directly to, and then another one could be someone that knows you well in a professional context. And there is the option to submit a third one if you have a third reference that you would like to submit. For those of you that are, have your own businesses, or your own boss, you might want to use someone like a client or a supplier, someone that knows you well in a professional context. The only limitation would be you cannot use a family member. There's a number of written and video essays as part of the application process. So in terms of written essays, we're looking, there's like 2 250-word essays and 1 500-word essays. So they are, relatively short. So make sure you do answer the question and put some thought around it. And always as a tip, I always tell people if they're writing the essays, just to make sure you're actually answering the questions. It's always useful to have someone else read just the answer itself and see if they can determine what the question was. And that way you would know that you answered the question well. There's a 90-second video essay that you have to submit in support of your application. That is not something that's kind of done spontaneously. It's answering a question, and then you prepare the video in advance and upload it to YouTube or Vimeo and send us the link. So you do have opportunity to kind of prepare the video in advance. So again, if you don't have really good video editing skills, we're not looking for like an Oscar-worthy video editing experience here. We're looking for good content. So basically come across in the video the way you would want to come across in an interview, basically. So, dress the way you would in an interview, have good lighting, don't have a soccer game playing in the back. So just kind of common sense ideas for this video. If you do have good video editing skills, feel free to get creative, but we do need to see you at some point in the video. English proficiency tests. If you did not do a degree in English, then we would require English proficiency tests. Now we're looking either for the IELTS academic at an average score of 7 or a TOEFL average score of 100. The last part of the application process is the personal interview. Now, for those of you that are not in the Vancouver area, these can take place over Skype. And for those of you that are in Vancouver, we encourage you to book an appointment in person. Just to let you know, the interview is around 45 minutes, and we're not trying to trick you here. It's basically just to get to know you a bit better. So some deadlines, fees, and information about scholarships. So you can see that we have deadlines here for Canadian applications as well as for international applications. Now, important note, you'll see first round and final round. Now, between the first round and final round, we continue to accept applications and assess them as they come through. This is called the rolling process of admissions. So what that means is that, great, if you can make the first round application deadline, that's fantastic. But an application that's sent in February 1st is still going to be considered sooner than an application that's sent in March 1st, as an example. So, there is an advantage to trying to apply early. We have a certain number of spots at the beginning of the application process, as well as a certain size of pool of scholarship money at the beginning. And that kind of shrinks as we go towards the final round. So the benefit of applying early, of course, would be to have like the best shot at the largest pool of spots in the program, as well as scholarship money. We do have merit-based scholarships. You can see here some of them are regional in nature with a value of 10 to 30,000. And we do have kind of the early deadline for that on October 22nd for our international applicants. And then Canadian merit-based scholarships, again, from 10 to 30,000 with a deadline of January 15th, 2020. You can see our tuition guidelines here. We have domestic tuition guidelines and international tuition guidelines. For those of you that are domestic, you're not seeing wrong. It really is 49,000. And that is basically due to the fact that education is governed by the different provinces of Canada. So the provincial government of British Columbia has basically capped how much domestic tuition can be for domestic students. So you are benefiting from one of the lowest tuition program rates that you can get for a top tier program in Canada. So I do encourage you to take advantage of this. Roughly speaking, 35 to 45% of the MBA class will be eligible for a scholarship. Great, so these are some links. To apply online, you can visit sauder.ubc.ca/FTMBA. And then you can also always contact us at mba@sauder.ubc.ca, or you can contact me, Vivian Tran, at vivian.tran@sauder.ubc.ca. For those of you that are local, we have a sample lecture event that's happening next week on September 25th at the Terminal City Club. The link to register for this event is just listed there. And I think Keith is also including the link in the chat box, so you can easily click through to register. Great, so now we'll be taking some questions, so feel free to add your questions to the chat box, and I'm just going to take a couple moments here to scroll in to see, scroll up in our chat box here to see what questions we might have missed, but do feel free to continue adding your questions into the chat box so I can answer them as we go through this webinar. Okay, so as we wait for some questions, I noticed that there's a question from Juan about the part-time program. And so although this webinar is not geared towards the part-time MBA program, Keith has provided a link there to a professional MBA program. So I just want to provide a little bit of information about this to anyone that's kind of thinking about the full-time or part-time MBA program. Now, our part-time program is a 24-month program that happens on the weekends only. And it is designed for people that are already in the Vancouver area. So those of you that are international, it really hasn't been done before that we have had non-local students in the part-time program, just because it's an in-person program. That being said, however, we have had some students commute in from places like Seattle, which are not too far away, about 2 hours away from Seattle. So if you are close enough to Vancouver and you're working full-time and you think you can do the program part-time, then please visit the website there. And of course, send me an email, because I can always do advising both about the part-time or the full-time program on a one-on-one basis with you. So for those of you that haven't had your questions lined up yet, or you haven't decided what you need to ask, or questions will come up later, do feel free to email me, and we can always book a one-on-one advising session either through Skype, telephone, or in person. Now, I see a few questions have been posed here, so I'm going to start answering some of these. Harneil has asked, is the GIE cost included in the tuition cost, or is that a separate cost? That's a very good question. The GIE does, we do ask students to budget about $5,000 to cover GIE, and that's primarily for the flight and accommodation costs. So GIE is not included in the actual tuition cost. The learning component of it is, but the flight and accommodations component is an extra cost that we ask students to budget about 5,000 Canadian for. Okay, so David has asked a question. What percentage of the 83% of people employed 3 months after graduation are employed full-time? I would say this is like 100% of the 83% are employed full-time. We are looking at full-time employment standards. Mike has a question. Does every student who applies for an internship get placed? That's a very good question. So a large majority of our students, I would say somewhere between 90% of our students, will get the paid internship. And it's not so much of an application as the work you put into it. So you have to think about our career journey as something that you have to put some elbow grease in. If you imagine a top company, let's just say like Amazon, for example, like we can't just, send Mike over and say, hey, let's give Mike an internship. Like Amazon probably wants to get to know you, right? So it's a really, landing the internship is, yes, something that the BCC or Business Career Center absolutely assists on, but the quality of the internship that you land, or the company that you want to land on, like that depends a lot on the kind of work you put into it as well. We do our best to deliver a very personalized experience. We want to deliver personalized introductions to, for example, our alumni that are working in those companies that can vouch for you, that can give you intel on what the application process looks like, what the interview process looks like for various types of internships. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to kind of, go to the interview, do a good job, and land the internship. But the BCC is responsible for working to get our students placed in the internship. Alexandra has a question. Do you believe that students coming from an arts background or non-business background could pursue the finance track? Is it necessary to know this knowledge beforehand? That's a great question, Alexandra. So in terms of students that are that are, coming from non-finance backgrounds. The finance industry in particular is a very competitive industry to get into, primarily because a lot of students that are working in that industry have basically worked in the industry before, or have certifications like the CFA, CFA level 1, 2, or 3 as an example. It's not impossible if you're from a non-finance background to enter this industry, but it will take a lot of work. And if you're not from, a finance background in terms of your work experience beforehand, then there is some things that you can do to kind of prepare yourself if you really want to break into this highly competitive field. One could be pursuing the finance track in the UBC MBA program, absolutely. But other things you can do would also be to pursue industry certifications like the CFA as an example. And Alexandra, and anybody else that's interested in this type of career shift, please feel free to reach out to me so I can take a look at your specific profiles. It's a bit of a difficult one to answer without seeing what your resume looks like. So again, this is a conversation that we should always take on a more personal level. So if you want, for anybody that's interested in these types of career shifts, please do send me an email, send me your resume, and we can arrange another chat on it. David's asking, if I'm leaning towards the customizable career track, is there a course catalog to know what's offered? Yes, David, absolutely. We can send you detailed course lists for the upcoming year when they are available. So just send me an email and we can send you what the courses are. Mira asked a question, are there consulting projects? Yes, absolutely. Throughout the course of the program, there is a local consulting project right after the foundational module with a real company. And then there's an international consulting project called Global Immersion, where you will actually be working on a consulting project for an international company in a different country, where firstly you would consult for the company, abroad while you're still doing your courses in Vancouver, and then you will go abroad and meet the company stakeholders, go abroad and learn how that business works on the ground in that country. Now, the two consulting projects that I mentioned, the local consulting project and the GIE experience, are unpaid experiences, but there is the summer experience period where students can do the paid internship for 4 months, where they're paid typically between $3,000 to $6,000 a month for up to 4 months. Now, Hendrik has asked, are significant scholarships still typically available as second round Canadian application deadline on January 15th? Yes, there still are merit-based scholarships that are going to be available at the second round application deadline of January 15th. So obviously try to aim for the first round deadline if possible, because our scholarship pool is a certain size and we've earmarked funds for those first round deadlines. So you do have a better chance of getting a large scholarship if you apply by the first round. But if you are not making the first round because your test score isn't up to what you want it to be, or you just need more time, don't submit a subpar application just to make the first round. Submit an application when your application is the strongest, and if that means the second round, that means the second round, and there are still sizable scholarships available for qualified candidates by the second round as well. The key you want to remember is you want to submit your strongest application possible. Alex is asking a question, if we get an academic loan from a third party, how will we get it? Will it send to the school directly? Alex, that depends on the third-party loaner, actually. So they're all a little different. So if you have, we could try to provide a little more guidance if you know what the loan company is or what the terms are, but they are a little bit different in terms of how they administer these loans. Rafayette is asking a question, can you transition to the part-time program after you received admission for a full-time program? So just as a recap, I talked a little bit about the part-time program before. So generally speaking, for the part-time program, these are people that are already in Vancouver, that are local or close enough to Vancouver where they can come for weekend courses. So it really depends on your situation. If you got an admission to the full-time program, but you want to transfer the part-time program, you would have to be in the right situation. For example, you would have to be a local or close to local student, so we can actually see that you can do the program part-time because it is part-time in person. And then it is subject to, review, right? So you could let us know, like, you happen to be in this situation, you're a local candidate, you got admission to the full-time program, but now you want to switch to the part-time program. We can absolutely make the consideration, but it's not an automatic transfer. So you'd have to send us a message to say, I want to switch to the part-time program, and give us the reason why, like perhaps like, a new job opportunity came out and you don't want to leave the workforce yet. But it's not an automatic transfer, but we can look into it for sure. Yuri is asking a question. If I'm applying for PR, should I apply as an international student? That's a very good question, Yuri. So for any of you guys that are kind of in the PR process for, Canadian PR right now, you have to apply with the status that you have, right? So if you're still international and you don't have your PR card yet, you do need to apply as an international student. However, like let's say you get your PR card partway through the program, the rest of the installments that you pay for the program will be adjusted to the PR rate. Now, there are 4 installments in this program. So it's $80,000 for an international student is paid over 4 installments over the course of the program, so roughly once every 4 months. So let's say you get your PR status after the first installment. So the first installment you would pay as an international student, but the next 3 installments would be paid as a PR. Rodrigo's asking a question. My daughter is going to be born next January. Congratulations, Rodrigo. I was approved for the 2020 class. Could I start my MBA in the 2021 class? I do not know if it would be too early to move to Canada with a 6-month-old daughter. Yes, so absolutely, if some extenuating circumstance happens, for example, this particular case, you can always email us, let us know the situation. So just you can feel free to email me directly, vivian.tran@sauder.ubc.ca with your situation. You feel free to copy mba@sauder.ubc.ca, and then we will work out a solution in terms of deferral. Alex is asking a question. What makes UBC not accept an applicant, or what makes him or her disqualified to be shortlisted? So we take a holistic process in our application assessment. So we're looking at, a combination of academic fit. So that's when we look at your transcripts and your standardized test score. So that's one part of the component. Right, that's the foundation. So that's for us to figure out, like, if we're being responsible, letting you into a super academically rigorous program, that you can make it through this program, right? The other part of it is looking at your motivation and, your career and professional development fit goals. So that's why it's very important when you're approaching a program like an MBA, any MBA program, not just UBC, to really think about the career goals that you want to get out of it. Our program is very career oriented. So, if your career goals don't fit something that we feel we can deliver for you, most likely we won't let you into the program. It's part of our responsibility as a responsible institution to, be relatively assured through the application process that we can help you meet your specific career goals. So, having clear goals that make sense are quite important. And then also, of course, the other side of it will be the academics. If your academics fall short, we can't responsibly admit you into the program because then we can't be relatively assured that you can complete it successfully. Hope that answers your question, Alex. But if you have further questions on that, feel free to ask another question or send me an email. Tao is asking a question. Does UBC have a mentorship program where we can seek advice from industry professionals or our related fields? And absolutely, Tao. The mentorship program is a key component of what the Business Career Center at UBC offers. So we can definitely, connect you with mentors that are in industry, that are professionals in the field that you want to get into, or the related field that you're already in that you want to advance in. Lewis is asking a question. What is the minimum TOEFL score required to enroll in the FT MBA program? The TOEFL score we're looking for is an average of 100. We are quite strict on that, but if you're off by a few points and you want some advising, just feel free to email me directly and we can take a look at things. Miguel, what if I cannot make it to the 25th sample class and networking events? Is it possible to arrange a further visit to UBC and a conversation with the admissions teams? Absolutely. If you happen to be international and you're not going to be in Vancouver for September 25th, and you want to visit Vancouver, or maybe you're a local candidate that you just can't make that, we're absolutely welcome you to get in touch with us if you want to have, a campus tour or a face-to-face visit. We're more than happy to arrange these things. Mira is asking, what are the courses available for finance track and the electives offered? Mira, like there's quite a few courses in the finance track. So what I would encourage you to do is send me an email at vivian.tran@sauder.udc.ca and I will send you the complete list. Mike is asking, are the percentile requirements for the quant and verbal sections of the GMAT, are there percentile requirements for the quant and verbal sections of the GMAT, or do you just look at the overall score? Great question, Mike. We are looking at a goal of getting at least a 50th percentile for each of the 2 verbal and quantitative sections of the GMAT. So do try to aim to get into the 50th percentile for both the verbal and quants. You don't want to be too skewed in either directions. The overall score is, of course, important, but we do look at the skewing. If there's too much skewing away from one section to the other, it would make that profile of score a little bit weaker. If you have any questions about that, again, feel free to reach out. Lewis is asking a question, what percentage of FT MBA graduates go into the consulting and financial services industry? Do those companies recruit on campus? Absolutely, these companies do recruit on campus. And I think anywhere from like a 20 to 30%, I think, of our students will go into the finance and consulting fields. It can vary from year to year. But we do have specialized services in terms of certain mentorship programs to help students to move ahead in those sectors, specifically in consulting. Firstly, I want to mention, if you are interested in management consulting, the benchmark score that we're looking for on the GMAT is a 700. So keep this in mind. Any of you guys that are interested in management consulting, you do want to score a 700 on the GMAT, and the GMAT is a test that the industry asks for. Now, if you are a competitive candidate for consulting, you scored the 700 on the GMAT, we have a special program called the Strategic Management Consulting Mentorship Program that's run by our alumni in the consulting firms. And this is a very special kind of 4-week boot camp that students can go into in the MBA program. And if you can pass this boot camp, you're actually going to be guaranteed first round interviews with all the consulting firms. So that's the big 4 plus the 3 top tier firms. So that's really significant for these in-school hire jobs for consulting firms. They typically have a funnel of about 2,000 applicants per job. So being able to be guaranteed first round interviews means you bypass about 75% of that funnel. So that's quite significant, and it greatly increases your chance of success in the management consulting field. And as far as we're aware, we're the only school that runs a program of this nature. So really significant for those of you that are interested in the management consulting field. First, the information to know is write the GMAT and score at least a 700. That will also be the entry requirements we're going to be looking for the Strategic Management Consulting Mentorship Program. So we have a question here from Himina. My GRE will expire this November. Do I need to retake it for the application? So if you submit your application before, before your GRE expires in November, there shouldn't be a problem. But if you're planning to apply a little later than that, Jimena, please get in touch with me directly and we will look at your situation on a case-by-case basis. Grace is asking, do you accept applicants who finished their bachelor's degree in the Philippines? That's a good question, Grace. Right now, we are, according to our Faculty of Graduate Studies, if you did your degree at De La Salle University, that is a yes. If you did not do your bachelor's degree at De La Salle University, then please get in touch with me directly so we can review your transcripts. Oh, and Grace has a follow-up question about our PR status in Canada. The PR status in this case, if you did your bachelor's degree in Canada, it doesn't make a difference. It's kind of the amount of post-secondary training you've gotten. And there is a little bit of a discrepancy about that in terms of degrees that are not from De La Salle University in the Philippines. So we still will need to look at your transcripts in order to determine if you can apply to the MBA program. So Grace, I encourage you to get in touch with me directly. Great, so I'll just leave a couple moments here. Any last questions before I wrap this webinar up? Okay, so I haven't seen any questions come in, so I will be wrapping this webinar up. In the meantime, for those of you that have more kind of profile related questions, please do feel free to email me directly at vivian.tran@sauder.ubc.ca, and we are more than happy to I'm more than happy to do a more thorough kind of personalized evaluation of your profile and your your intentions for doing the MBA program and what we can deliver for you specifically. Rafa, I just had a follow-up question, actually, just to end this. He said, missed your response. Can you transition to the part-time program after you received admissions to a full-time program? So, Rafael, that depends on whether you are an eligible program for the part-time program in the first place. Like I mentioned before, our part-time program is generally for local students because it is an in-person program. It's not an online program. So if you happen to be a local student, like so in the Vancouver area or potentially from areas like Seattle, Victoria, and you can easily commute into the city, yes, we can absolutely consider transferring your application to the part-time program. It's not an automatic transfer, however. We will look at your case specifically. So it is possible, but you have to be eligible to do the part-time program to begin with. And feel free, Rafael, to send me an email directly with your specific case if you have further questions on that. Great. So great. So seeing there are no further questions, I appreciate those of you that sent me the thank yous. It's really a pleasure to touch base with all of you virtually like this. And please feel free to stay in touch. Don't make this the first conversation you have about this important decision of your life. We are here to answer your questions. So do feel free to reach out directly. And for those of you that are local, I hope to see you at our September 25th sample lecture event. And for those of you that aren't, feel free to check out our events page. We might be coming to a city near you. All right, thank you very much, everyone. And this will conclude this webinar.